5 metals, a jar of salt water, no batteries, no solar panels, no power bill. Stack them correctly and you have a power source that will run continuously until the metal is physically consumed. Depending on the pair you choose, that can take anywhere from a few weeks to several years. Every piece you're about to see can be pulled from a scrapyard, a demolition site, a roadside skip, or your own recycling bin. Nobody needs to know you took them. Nobody will charge you for them. Together, they cost zero. And together, they generate real, measurable electricity. Not theoretical, not imaginary. The same galvanic reaction that powers every battery on Earth, except the materials are free and the design is 225 years old. Today, we are ranking the 5 most powerful scrapyard metal pairings from the lowest voltage to the highest. We will show you what each one produces, what you can actually run with it, and which specific combination generates nearly 3 full volts from a single cell, enough to light a room. The power companies hope you never figure this out. Let us begin. In 1800, an Italian physicist named Alessandro Volta stacked zinc discs, copper discs, and cardboard soaked in brine, alternating over and over, a few dozen layers high. At the top and bottom of the stack, he attached wires. When he touched the wires together, a spark jumped. When he connected them to a circuit, current flowed continuously for hours, without moving parts, without heat, without fuel. It was the first battery ever made. Volta called it the Voltaic pile. Every battery you have ever used, AA batteries, car batteries, phone batteries, laptop batteries, and power tool batteries, is a descendant of that stack. The science has not changed in 2 centuries. Only the materials inside the casing have been refined and hidden. And the most important thing Volta discovered was never marketed to you. Volta learned that every metal has a measurable electrical potential. Pair any 2 metals with different potentials, add an electrolyte such as salt water, vinegar, or damp earth, and current flows. The bigger the gap between the 2 metals on the reactivity scale, the higher the voltage. This scale exists. It is called the galvanic series. It is taught in every first-year chemistry class on the planet. It lists, in order, exactly which metals produce the most voltage when paired together. The United States Navy uses this chart to prevent ship hulls from corroding. The construction industry uses it to prevent pipes from reacting. NASA uses it to prevent satellites from short-circuiting. And somewhere between 1800 and today, the one application that nobody in mainstream education talks about is the one that was staring Volta in the face. If pairing 2 metals generates free electricity, and the chart tells us exactly which pairs are most powerful, why is nobody teaching people how to build power sources out of scrap metal? The answer is the same as it always is. There is no recurring revenue in a device built from a scrapyard. So let us rank them. 5 metals, from the scrapyard, free. We will start with the weakest pairing and work our way up to the one that produces nearly 3 times the voltage of a standard battery cell. Let us go. Number 5, lead and copper. Voltage produced approximately 0.47 volts per cell. Lead is the heaviest metal on this list and the least reactive of the pairings we will cover. Its electrode potential sits at roughly minus 0.13 volts. Paired with copper at positive 0.34 volts, the gap between them is only 0.47 volts. That is low. But lead has 3 advantages that make it worth considering. First, it is everywhere. Old roofing flashing, car wheel weights, scuba diving belts, fishing sinkers, lead-acid battery cases from scrapyards, demolition sites routinely discard hundreds of pounds of it. Second, lead corrodes extremely slowly in low-oxygen environments. A lead-copper cell buried in wet soil can produce stable current for 5 to 7 years without maintenance. The electrode barely changes size. Third, lead is cheap even when purchased, but in a scrapyard it is functionally free. Any metal recycler has buckets of it. To build a lead and copper cell, you need 1 lead plate roughly 2 inches by 4 inches and 1 copper plate of the same size, separated by about 1 inch of salt water or damp earth. Stack 10 of these in series and you get 4.7 volts. That is enough to charge a small capacitor or run a low-power LED indefinitely. It is not powerful, but it is permanent. A quick warning: Do not handle lead with bare hands or heat it. Lead is toxic when absorbed through skin or inhaled as fumes. Wear gloves and wash afterwards. Lead is safe in a sealed cell, but it must be respected in handling. Number 4. Iron and copper. Voltage produced approximately 0.78 volts per cell. Iron is the second most abundant metal in the Earth's crust. In scrapyards it is everywhere: rebar, nails, angle iron, old tools, engine parts, bed frames, rusted pipes. Iron's electrode potential sits at negative 0.44 volts. Against copper, that gap produces 0.78 volts per cell. That is nearly double what lead offers. Iron has one significant drawback: it rusts rapidly. The same oxidation that generates electricity also destroys the electrode. An iron and copper cell in wet conditions will consume its iron electrode in roughly 6 to 12 months, depending on soil acidity and moisture. But because scrap iron is so abundant, the replacement cost is still effectively zero. Pull a rusted rebar rod out of a construction bin. Cut it down, sand the surface, bury it. When it disintegrates, pull another one. 10 iron and copper cells in series produce 7.8 volts, enough to run a USB boost converter and charge a phone, enough to power LED grow lights, enough to run a 12-volt DC fan at reduced speed. The US Army used iron and copper earth batteries in the Pacific Theatre during World War II when zinc supplies were constrained. The configuration appears in Field Manual FM 525 as an acceptable substitute when nothing else is available. Number 3. Zinc and copper. Voltage produced approximately 1.1 volts per cell. Zinc is the classic pairing. Alessandro Volta used zinc in 1800. Alexander Bain used it to power telegraph lines in 1841. It is the reference standard for every earth battery designed since. Zinc's electrode potential sits at negative 0.76 volts. Paired with copper, the cell produces 1.1 volts, the same voltage as a standard alkaline battery. The scrapyard source is galvanized metal. Galvanized roofing sheets, galvanized nails, galvanized fence posts, galvanized buckets, old water pipes, HVAC ducting. Every galvanized surface is coated with a layer of pure zinc, typically 20 to 80 micrometers thick. For a single-use cell, you can sand off the zinc coating and use the shavings directly suspended in salt water. For a permanent cell, cut strips of galvanized steel and use them whole. The zinc coating corrodes first, and the steel underneath provides structural integrity while the electrochemistry works. Zinc is also abundant as sacrificial anodes. Every boat, water heater and underground pipeline has sacrificial zinc anodes designed to corrode before the main structure does. Old water heaters routinely get scrapped with the zinc anode rod still inside. These rods are typically 1 inch thick and 2 to 3 feet long. Each one is a perfect earth battery electrode. 12 zinc copper cells connected in series produce 13.2 volts. That is enough to directly run a 12-volt LED strip, charge a lead-acid battery through a diode, or power a small water pump. Zinc corrodes moderately fast. Expect to replace the electrodes every 1 to 3 years depending on soil moisture and acidity, but scrap zinc is so abundant that replacement cost stays at zero. Number 2. Aluminum and copper. Voltage produced approximately 2 volts per cell. Here is where the numbers start to surprise people. Aluminum's electrode potential sits at negative 1.66 volts. Paired with copper, a single aluminum-copper cell produces roughly 2 volts, nearly double what zinc copper produces. That is more than a AA battery from a single cell. And aluminum is the single most discarded metal in the modern world. Every soda can, every takeaway container, every piece of tin foil, every aluminum window frame, ladder rung, bike rim, engine block fin and gutter section. A single aluminum soft drink can, flattened and folded into strips, provides enough aluminum to build 4 full-size cell electrodes. The average household discards between 20 and 50 aluminum cans per week. That is 80 to 200 electrodes per week free. Aluminum has one catch. It does not behave exactly like the other metals on this list. When aluminum is exposed to oxygen, It forms a thin, invisible layer of aluminum oxide on its surface. This layer blocks the galvanic reaction. A clean aluminum strip placed in salt water will initially produce voltage, but the reaction slows within minutes as the oxide layer rebuilds. The solution is either mechanical, sanding the surface constantly, or chemical, adding a small amount of sodium hydroxide known as lye, or vinegar to the electrolyte dissolves the oxide layer as fast as it forms. With this modification, an aluminum copper cell produces stable 2-volt output for weeks at a time. A more advanced version is the aluminum air battery. Instead of copper, the cathode is a layer of activated charcoal exposed to air. The aluminum reacts directly with atmospheric oxygen. Aluminum air batteries produce nearly 2.7 volts and have energy densities comparable to lithium cells. The design has been used in military applications since the 1960s. 6 aluminum copper cells in series produce 12 volts, enough to run a car radio, charge a tablet, or power a small inverter. Number 1. Magnesium and copper. Voltage produced approximately 2.7 volts per cell. Magnesium is the most reactive metal on this list. Its electrode potential sits at negative 2.37 volts, over 3 times more reactive than zinc and 6 times more reactive than lead. Paired with copper, a single magnesium cell produces 2.7 volts. 3 of them in series produce 8.1 volts. 5 in series produce 13.5 volts, enough to replace a 12-volt car battery in terms of voltage. Magnesium is less common in typical household scrap, but it is not rare. The best sources are these: water heater anode rods. Modern water heaters use either magnesium or aluminum as sacrificial anodes to prevent tank corrosion. Older units and premium current units use pure magnesium. Every time a water heater is replaced, which happens across 5 to 10 million American households per year, the anode rod is typically discarded. Scrapyards and plumbers often have these stockpiled. Automotive parts. Magnesium alloy is used in wheel rims, transmission housings, and some engine components. Junkyards have these in abundance. A single magnesium wheel contains roughly 15 pounds of nearly pure metal. Fire starter blocks. Every camping store sells magnesium fire starter blocks for under $5. These are industrial-grade pure magnesium. A single block the size of a matchbox contains enough metal for dozens of cells. Military surplus. Magnesium is used in incendiary devices, flares, and certain rocket components. Decommissioned military stock sometimes surfaces in surplus channels. Magnesium has the highest voltage output of any common metal, but it also has the fastest consumption rate. A magnesium copper cell in active electrolyte will consume its magnesium electrode in 30 to 90 days. This is why magnesium earth batteries are rare. The replacement cycle is frequent. However, because a magnesium anode rod from a water heater weighs 1 to 2 pounds and can be cut into dozens of electrode segments, the per cell cost remains effectively zero. One scrapyard water heater provides years of replacement material. For maximum output, 5 magnesium copper cells in series produce 13.5 volts. Wire them in parallel sets, and you can draw enough current to light an entire workshop with LED panels continuously on nothing but salt water and scrap metal. This is the closest thing to a free, self-sustaining power source available from materials at zero cost. The military has known this for decades. Magnesium-based reserve batteries are standard equipment in emergency lighting, life rafts, and field electronics, and none of it requires special permission, special equipment, or a single dollar was spent at a retail store. Every one of these metals is sitting right now within 20 miles of where you're watching this video. Most of it is discarded. A portion of it is recycled, which means it is melted down and sold back to you at markup as new consumer goods. None of it is being used to build earth batteries. Nobody is pointing people towards scrap yards and saying, here, build your own power source from trash. This is not a conspiracy. This is a market outcome. There is no company whose revenue model depends on you generating your own electricity from scrap. There is no industry lobby pushing galvanic cell education into schools. There is no advertising budget behind aluminum copper battery kits. Meanwhile, the utility companies spend billions per year reinforcing the message that electricity is something that must be generated at a distant power plant, delivered through expensive infrastructure and metered by the kilowatt hour. The truth is simpler. Electricity is the flow of electrons from a metal that wants to lose them to a metal that wants to gain them. That flow can be generated anywhere two different metals meet a conductive solution. The Voltaic pile was invented 225 years ago. The chemistry has not changed. The only thing that has changed is how thoroughly the knowledge has been commercialized out of public view. You will not replace your entire home's power grid with scrapyard metal. That is not what this is. But you can run lighting, sensors, security cameras, small tools, radios and low-power appliances on materials that cost nothing, and you can do it indefinitely. The power companies hope you stop watching this video before the end. 5 metals, ranked from weakest to strongest. Lead copper, 0.47 volts, nearly permanent, decades of output. Iron copper, 0.78 volts, abundant everywhere, cheap to replace. Zinc copper, 1.1 volts, the classic, the one Volta used. Aluminum copper, 2.0 volts, free from your recycling bin. Magnesium copper, 2.7 volts, the most powerful. Water heater anode rods, junkyard wheels, fire starter blocks, stack them, wire them in series, add salt water or damp earth, generate free power for as long as the metal lasts. The scrapyard is the hardware store nobody charges you at. If you want us to build each one of these pairings into a working demonstration, with voltage readings, runtime tests and practical applications, subscribe and hit the bell. The next video shows exactly how to wire a 24-cell scrapyard battery array that can run a full workshop lighting system for under $0.